Steve Harvey had been hosting Family Feud for over 20 years, and during that time, he had witnessed countless moments when family members surprised each other with unexpected responses, revelations, or demonstrations of character that shifted the entire dynamic on stage. He had learned to read the subtle signals that indicated when someone was preparing to say something significant, when emotions were building beneath a calm exterior, and when a seemingly simple exchange was about to reveal something profound about the people standing before him. But on that bright June afternoon in 2025, he would witness a moment when one woman's calm, measured response to her husband's provocation would demonstrate such extraordinary grace and strength that it would leave everyone in the studio silent with admiration. What began as what appeared to be another instance of a husband attempting to diminish his wife through sarcasm and mockery would transform into a masterclass in dignity, self-possession, and the power of refusing to engage with disrespect on its own terms. If you appreciate content that demonstrates the strength found in measured responses and the power of maintaining dignity in the face of provocation, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support enables us to continue sharing stories that illustrate how true strength is often displayed not through aggression or retaliation, but through calm assertion of boundaries and unwavering self-respect. The Phillips family from Richmond, Virginia, stood ready to compete against the Sanders family from Norfolk, Virginia. The Phillips family consisted of Gregory Phillips, age 53, who worked as a corporate attorney at a large law firm where he had built a career on aggressive litigation tactics and an adversarial approach to conflict resolution. Standing beside him was his wife, Angela Phillips, age 51, who introduced herself as a child psychologist with a private practice specializing in helping children navigate trauma and difficult family dynamics. Their daughter, Olivia, age 28, worked as a human resources director at a technology company and had traveled from California to participate in the show with her family. Their son, Marcus, age 25, was completing his residency in emergency medicine at a hospital in Baltimore. Completing the family was Gregory's business partner, Stephen, age 52, who had worked alongside Gregory for over 15 years and seemed to share his confrontational communication style and his tendency towards sarcasm as a default mode of interaction. From the opening moments of the family introduction, Steve Harvey observed a striking contrast between Gregory's aggressive energy and Angela's calm, composed demeanor. When Gregory spoke, he dominated the conversation with rapid-fire commentary and frequent interruptions of other family members. When Angela spoke, she did so with measured deliberation, her voice quiet but carrying a quality of authority that suggested someone accustomed to being heard without needing to raise her volume or compete for attention. The dynamic between them was immediately apparent to anyone paying attention. Gregory seemed to view every interaction as an opportunity to assert dominance or score points, while Angela maintained an almost serene presence that suggested she had long ago stopped participating in the competitive framework her husband tried to impose on their relationship. The game progressed through several rounds, with the Phillips family performing well despite Gregory's tendency to critique other family members' answers and to offer unsolicited strategic advice after each question. Angela participated when her turn came, providing thoughtful responses that consistently appeared on the board and accumulated points for the family. She showed no reaction to Gregory's commentary about her answers or his frequent attempts to interject his own opinions about what she should have said. Her face remained calm and neutral, her posture relaxed, giving no indication that his behavior affected her in any way. Then came the question that would set the stage for the moment that would leave Gregory speechless and demonstrate to everyone watching the profound strength of Angela's character. Steve Harvey walked to the center of the stage and read from the card with his characteristic timing and energy. "We surveyed 100 people. Top 7 answers on the board. Name something a wife does that drives her husband crazy." The question was designed to elicit responses about common marital irritations, the small habits or behaviors that create friction in relationships. Gregory buzzed in first and answered with what he clearly believed was both accurate and humorous. "Overanalyze everything I say and turn simple conversations into therapy sessions." He delivered the line with a pointed look at Angela and a smirk that suggested he was making a specific reference to their relationship dynamics rather than offering a general answer. The implication was clear to everyone watching. Gregory was a lawyer married to a psychologist, and he was mocking his wife's professional training and her tendency to approach conversations with emotional awareness and depth. The answer was on the board at number 6 with 12 points. Gregory turned to Angela with a self-satisfied expression, as though he had scored a victory by publicly mocking her professional skills and her communication style. The audience's response was muted, many people sensing the mean-spirited intent behind the answer rather than finding it genuinely funny. The game continued with other family members providing answers that added points to the board. Then it came around to Angela's turn. Steve approached her with his microphone, and as he did, he noticed that her expression had not changed despite her husband's public mockery. She remained calm and composed, showing no signs of hurt or anger or defensiveness. When she spoke, her voice was clear and measured, carrying easily through the studio without any need for raised volume or emotional emphasis. "Steve, before I give my answer to this question, I would like to address what my husband just said. Gregory suggested that I overanalyze everything he says and turn simple conversations into therapy sessions. I want to respond to that observation." She paused, and the studio fell completely silent as everyone waited to hear what Angela would say. Steve Harvey stood very still, recognizing that something significant was about to occur. Angela continued, her voice remaining calm and her demeanor completely controlled. "Gregory, you are correct that I often approach our conversations with the same skills I use in my professional work. I listen carefully to what is being said and what is being left unsaid. I pay attention to tone and body language and the emotions beneath the words. I ask questions designed to promote understanding and to create space for genuine communication rather than superficial exchange. You are right that I do these things. What you characterize as overanalyzing, I would describe as actually paying attention to you and to our relationship." She turned slightly to address him more directly, while still speaking clearly enough for everyone in the studio to hear. "You made that comment as though my attentiveness to our communication is a flaw or an annoyance, but I want you to consider an alternative perspective. Perhaps the reason my careful attention to what you say feels uncomfortable to you is not because I am overanalyzing, but because I am actually hearing what you are communicating, including the contempt and dismissiveness that you often express toward me, and I am reflecting that back to you in ways that require you to acknowledge it rather than pretending it does not exist." The studio remained completely silent. Gregory's face had gone from self-satisfied to shocked, his mouth slightly open as though he had been prepared to deflect a defensive or emotional response, but had not anticipated this calm, measured analysis of his behavior and its implications. Steve Harvey's expression showed profound respect for Angela's composure and the clarity with which she was addressing her husband's attempt to mock her. Angela was not finished. She continued in the same calm, measured tone that somehow carried more power than any amount of anger or raised voices could have conveyed. "You work as a litigator, Gregory. Your professional training has taught you to view conversations as adversarial exchanges where the goal is to win rather than to understand. You approach our marriage with the same framework you use in the courtroom. You look for weaknesses to exploit, you use sarcasm and mockery as weapons, and you view my attempts to create genuine connection and understanding as threats to be neutralized or dismissed." She paused, allowing her words to settle before continuing. "I have spent 26 years married to you, watching you bring your courtroom tactics into our home. I have watched you cross-examine our children about their choices and decisions, as though they were hostile witnesses rather than young people trying to navigate life. I have watched you turn family dinners into debates where you score points rather than conversations where we connect. I have watched you use your intelligence and your verbal skills not to build our family up, but to maintain control and dominance over people who love you and deserve better." Gregory attempted to interrupt, but Angela held up her hand in a gesture that was gentle but absolutely firm. "No, Gregory. You had your turn to speak when you made your comment about me overanalyzing. Now I am taking my turn to respond, and you are going to listen to what I have to say without interruption, objection, or rebuttal. You are going to experience what it feels like to have someone pay careful attention to your words and your behavior and reflect back to you what they observe, which is exactly what you criticized me for doing." The audience was completely transfixed. Several people were leaning forward in their seats, captivated by Angela's extraordinary composure and the power of her measured response. Steve Harvey remained perfectly still, understanding that he was witnessing something remarkable, and that his role in this moment was simply to hold space for it to unfold. Angela continued, her voice never rising above a conversational tone, but carrying absolute authority. You asked this question expecting me to become defensive or hurt or angry. You expected that I would either withdraw into hurt silence or respond with emotion that you could then dismiss as overreacting or being too sensitive. But I am not going to do either of those things. Instead, I am going to do exactly what you accused me of doing. I am going to analyze what just happened here and explain to you and to everyone watching what your comment reveals about our relationship and about your character. She turned slightly to address the audience and the cameras while still maintaining her focus on Gregory. When someone mocks their partner's profession or their skills or their way of being in the world, they are revealing their own insecurity and their need to diminish the other person in order to feel superior. Gregory mocked my training as a psychologist and my tendency to approach conversations with emotional awareness because those qualities threaten him. They require him to be accountable for his behavior and his impact on other people, and accountability is not something he is comfortable with. Gregory's face had cycled through several expressions during Angela's response, moving from shock to defensiveness to what appeared to be the beginning of genuine recognition. Olivia and Marcus stood watching their mother with expressions of clear admiration, and even Stephen, Gregory's business partner, appeared uncomfortable as he perhaps recognized similar patterns in his own behavior. Angela turned her full attention back to Gregory. I want to be very clear about something. The way you just attempted to mock me in front of millions of people is emblematic of how you have treated me throughout our marriage. You use humor as a cover for contempt. You make observations that sound like jokes, but are actually criticisms designed to diminish me and make yourself look clever at my expense. You have done this for 26 years, and I have tolerated it because I believed that maintaining peace in our family was more important than defending myself against your constant small attacks. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words carried a finality that made clear something fundamental had shifted. But I am not going to tolerate it anymore. Your comment today was meant to be just another small jab, another little moment where you got to feel superior by making me look foolish. But instead, it has become the moment where I make clear to you that your behavior is no longer acceptable to me. You can choose to examine your patterns and work on changing how you communicate with me and with our children. Or you can choose to continue being who you have always been. But if you choose the latter, you will be making that choice as a single man, because I am done accepting disrespect disguised as humor. The silence in the studio was profound. Angela's calm delivery of such a serious ultimatum created a cognitive dissonance that somehow made her words even more powerful. There was no yelling, no tears, no dramatic emotional display. There was simply a woman stating clearly and calmly what she would and would not accept in her life going forward. Steve Harvey finally spoke, his voice filled with respect and something close to awe. Angela, I have been doing this show for 20 years, and I have never witnessed a response quite like what you just delivered. You maintained complete composure while addressing disrespectful behavior directly and clearly. You explained not just what your husband did wrong, but why it was wrong and what it reveals about your relationship dynamics. And you did it all without raising your voice, without attacking him personally, and without losing your dignity for even a moment. He turned to Gregory, whose earlier confidence had completely evaporated. Gregory, your wife just gave you a gift. She gave you a clear, calm explanation of how your behavior affects her and what needs to change. She did not attack you. She did not humiliate you the way you tried to humiliate her. She simply stated truth with such clarity and composure that there is no room for you to dismiss it or deflect it or claim she is overreacting. The question is whether you are capable of hearing what she said and actually doing something with it. Olivia spoke up, her voice filled with emotion. Mom, that was incredible. I have watched Dad make comments like that about you my entire life, and I have always wondered why you never called him out on it. I thought maybe you did not see it or maybe you did not care. But watching you now, I realize that you saw it all along. You just chose to address it when the moment was right, and when you could do so with the kind of calm strength that no one could dismiss or ignore. Marcus added his perspective as well. Dad, I need you to hear what Mom just said. I need you to understand that the way you communicate with her and with us has caused real damage over the years. As someone training to be a doctor, I spend a lot of time thinking about different kinds of harm. And I can tell you that the kind of harm you have been causing with your constant sarcasm and mockery is real, even if it does not leave visible wounds. Mom just gave you a chance to change that pattern. I hope you take it. Gregory finally found his voice, though it came out much quieter and more uncertain than his usual confident courtroom tone. Angela, I do not know what to say. I genuinely did not realize that my comment would trigger this response. I thought I was just making a lighthearted observation. I did not understand that it was part of a larger pattern that has been hurting you for our entire marriage." Angela's response was immediate and delivered in the same calm tone she had maintained throughout. "Gregory, the fact that you did not realize your comment would trigger this response is precisely the problem. You have been making comments like that for 26 years without considering how they affect me. You have been operating under the assumption that as long as you tell yourself you are joking, you bear no responsibility for the hurt you cause. But that is not how relationships work. Intent does not erase impact, and your lack of awareness about how your words land does not excuse the damage they cause." Steve Harvey made a decision to provide support beyond simply hosting this difficult conversation. "Philip's family, I'm going to connect you with a marriage counselor who specializes in communication patterns and power dynamics in relationships. Angela has identified some serious issues that need to be addressed with professional support. I'm also going to suggest that you, Gregory, consider individual therapy to examine why you have relied on sarcasm and mockery as your primary mode of relating to your wife, and to explore healthier ways of communicating." The game did not resume that day. The moment was too significant, too powerful to simply move past in order to continue with entertainment. Instead, the Phillips family spent time backstage with counselors who could provide immediate support and begin the process of addressing the patterns that had been so clearly identified by Angela's response. When the episode aired 14 weeks later, the response was immediate and overwhelming. The segment went viral within hours, generating tens of millions of views and sparking intense conversations about communication in marriage, the power of calm responses to provocation, and the difference between being passive and being strategic in choosing when and how to address disrespectful behavior. Thousands of women shared that they had been inspired by Angela's composure and her ability to articulate clearly what was wrong with her husband's behavior without becoming emotional or defensive. Many described similar patterns in their own relationships where partners used humor to disguise contempt and then dismissed any objections as oversensitivity. Watching Angela refuse to accept that framework and instead calmly explain why the behavior was problematic gave many women a model for how to address similar issues in their own lives. Mental health professionals and communication experts praised Angela's response as a textbook example of assertive communication. She had stated her observations clearly, explained the impact of the behavior, set boundaries about what she would accept going forward, and done it all without attacking Gregory's character or engaging in the kind of defensive escalation that often occurs in such situations. Her response became a teaching tool in conflict resolution courses and communication skills training. The segment also generated significant discussion about the difference between emotional intelligence and overanalyzing. Many people, particularly those in helping professions like therapy or counseling, expressed that they had been criticized in similar ways for bringing professional skills into personal relationships. Angela's reframing of attentiveness as a strength rather than a flaw resonated deeply with people who had internalized messages that their careful attention to emotional dynamics was a problem rather than a gift. The Phillips family engaged in intensive marriage counseling following the taping. The process required Gregory to confront his reliance on adversarial communication patterns and to develop skills for connecting with his wife and children in ways that built intimacy rather than maintained distance through sarcasm and mockery. Angela worked through her own process of understanding why she had tolerated disrespectful treatment for so long and how she could maintain the boundaries she had articulated on the Family Feud stage. 6 months after the initial airing, the Phillips family participated in a follow-up interview. The changes in their relationship dynamics were immediately apparent. Gregory spoke with genuine humility about the work he had done to recognize and change his communication patterns. He acknowledged that Angela's calm response on the show had been a wake-up call that forced him to see behavior he had been engaging in for decades but had never examined or questioned. Angela described the months since the taping as transformative not just for her marriage, but for her sense of self. She explained that speaking her truth so clearly and calmly on national television had reinforced her own understanding that she did not need to accept disrespect, that she could set boundaries without becoming aggressive or defensive, and that calm assertion of her needs and limits was both possible and powerful. Olivia and Marcus both expressed that they had seen sustained changes in their father's behavior, and that family interactions were significantly healthier. They noted that witnessing their mother's response and their father's subsequent work in therapy had given them valuable models for their own relationships and their understanding of what healthy communication looked like. One year after that June afternoon, when Angela Phillips delivered a calm response that left her husband speechless, the long-term impact of that moment continued to unfold. The segment had been incorporated into communication training programs, conflict resolution courses, and marriage counseling curricula across the country. Angela's response became a reference point for discussions about assertiveness, emotional regulation, and the power of maintaining composure in the face of provocation. Angela herself became a sought-after speaker at conferences focused on relationships, communication, and women's empowerment. She shared her story to illustrate that strength is not always loud or aggressive, that setting boundaries can be done with grace and dignity, and that refusing to engage with disrespect on its own terms is a powerful form of self-respect. The moment when Angela Phillips stood on the Family Feud stage and responded to her husband's mockery with such extraordinary calm and clarity became one of the most memorable and impactful moments in the show's long history. It demonstrated that sometimes the most powerful response to provocation is not escalation or retaliation, but rather measured articulation of exactly what is wrong with the behavior and what will be accepted going forward. If this story has resonated with you or helped you understand the power of calm, assertive communication in the face of disrespect, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share this story with someone who might benefit from seeing a model of how to maintain dignity while setting firm boundaries. Most importantly, remember that you do not have to accept disrespectful treatment from anyone, including and especially from the person you are married to. You can address problematic behavior clearly and calmly, stating what you observe and what you require going forward, without losing your composure or your self-respect. Angela Phillips showed us that true strength often looks like calm assertion rather than loud confrontation, and that the most powerful responses are sometimes delivered in the quietest voices. Her willingness to speak truth with such measured grace gave permission to countless others to do the same in their own relationships and their own lives.